democracy depends on a peaceful transition of power, especially when you don't get the results you want.
Just a hive of buzz and activity. If anything, he has obviously more choices than one to fill in each position. So we have an embarrassment of riches when it comes to many of those different positions.
No administration is ready on day one. We weren't ready on day one. I've never met one that's ever been ready on day one. But I'm confident on day one, everything will be in good hands and they'll be handled anything that can come before.
It's very calm, it's very structured, and anyone saying anything else is either A, bitter because they're not on the inside and not being considered.
Well, some reaction there to all the coverage about how this transition is going. If you read the New York Times today, the headline, "Firings and Discord Put Trump Transition Team in a State of Disarray." The president-elect tweeting out last night, "Very organized process taking place as I decide on cabinet and many other positions. I am the only one who knows who the finalists are." Continuing this morning, the failing New York Times story is so totally wrong on transition. It's going so smoothly. Also, I have spoken to many foreign leaders, and they put out a long list of foreign leaders who have spoken to the president-elect and the vice president-elect today. If you take a look at the presidential campaign announcements, in the cabinet announcements from previous presidents, you can kind of follow this chart, and this is the number of weeks you see on the left, week 1, 2, 3. President Obama nearly 3 weeks before he made an announcement to his cabinet in 2008. There you see Bush 43, who obviously had a unique situation in the recount in 2000. But Reagan was in week 6 when he made his first announcement, and President Carter in 1976, week 5, before he made an announcement. Again, it's been 1 week and 1 day. Let's bring in our panel. A.B. Stoddard, Associate Editor at Real Clear Politics, Editor-in-Chief of LifeZette, Laura Ingraham, and syndicated columnist Charles Krauthammer. Well, before we start, Laura, you are on this list of possibles.
Oh, I am? Gosh, I'm going to check my papers.
How is that? Have you been talked to? What's the deal?
Well, you know, we're going to have a conversation about it, and it's nice to be mentioned, as it always is. But, you know, I love what I do here at Fox, and I love my radio show, and I love LifeZette. So it would be a big life change for me in a different role. I worked in the White House before in the Reagan years as a junior speechwriter in domestic policy and at a few other departments with Bill Bennett and at the Department of Transportation. So I have some very junior experience. But it would be a great honor to do something that I thought I could contribute to significantly.
Well, I wanted to talk about that first. Charles, your take on all this and how it's being covered.
I think the coverage is slightly over the top, in fact. It's remarkably over the top. First of all, as you showed in that chart, historically there's nothing unusual about not having made an announcement after 1 week and 1 day. Second, the Trump campaign has been described as in disarray since about January, and he won the election. Third, I don't think there's any question that if we come to Inauguration Day and we don't have, say, a Secretary of Commerce nominated, the foundations of the Republic will not be threatened. So I think this is sort of a tempest in a teapot, and now I think Trump is approaching the most delicate stage of the selection process, the swimsuit competition.
A.B.
Well, I agree. I think that this is drinking water through a fire hose. It's not easy. It's totally overwhelming, and it's complex, and they do not have to wrap this up right away. And they have a lot of time, and I think people need to give them a break. It's very new. He'll talk to all those foreign leaders when he needs to. They don't need to all be the third caller, and everyone will get taken care of. I think the concerns really are about the kind of transition work with the current administration at the Department of State and the Pentagon, that if they haven't heard from them and there's all these squabbles going on between what is sort of the Republican establishment intelligence community that was, you know, very much opposed to Donald Trump and now is being urged to come on board and help him, you know, what the voters want to hear is that as we enter a very fragile time, because the transition is when we're the most vulnerable, not only these months, but from January to, say, June, a new and young administration. I think they need to reassure people that they're going to be able to hire the best people, and a loyalty pledge will not be the only test, and that they're going to, and I would urge all those people, if they're patriots, to come on board and help fill out a robust national security team no matter what. And I I think that the arrangement with his kids is of a very big concern to people, because when they throw around the term blind trust, they're not talking about what a real blind trust is.
Okay, Laura?
I think there's not all that much to report for the press right now, and so there's a lot of time to fill on 24-hour news, and there's a lot of newspaper articles to write, and so the speculation is just all over the place. And I mean, I'm getting calls from people throwing out names. I'm like, I've never even heard that, so I don't know what you're talking about. So I understand it. It's frustrating. There's a bit of a emptiness in the news perhaps for people after this campaign that was so tumultuous and so surprising. But I think people should take a bit of a breath and let this play out a little before they jump to all these conclusions about what Trump is looking at or not looking at. It seems to me they're talking to a lot of people, and isn't that good? Isn't that what we want them to do, and have a breadth of advisors from all walks of life, which from what I can gather they're really doing. And it's not just Trump loyalists, it's people with business experience and different types of political experience. And I think that's a healthy thing. But the idea that it's all going to be wrapped up in 10 days, that's just not realistic.
Yeah. Well, in the risk of speculating, here's us speculating, some lists that we're told are being talked about. Secretary of State Rudy Giuliani, he is pushing for it, we're told, but we don't know if there's decision made on that, or whether this is the problems that you've seen reported about his ties on money is going to be a problem for him overseas. John Bolton, Bob Corker, and even David Petraeus' name has been talked about. Defense Secretary, we're hearing Jeff Sessions, who again is another person who on this team went early into the campaign and is said to have his pick for the most part. Senator Tom Cotton from Arkansas, outgoing Senator Kelly Ayotte, and even General Jack Keane has been talked about. Treasury Secretary, this is very interesting. Stephen Mnuchin, Wilbur Ross, Jamie Dimon was talked about a week ago, again surfaced again today, and Congressman Jeb Hensarling. Charles, let's just stop there for a second. I mean, you have two Wall Street people definitively in there. Does that fit in a Treasury Secretary position for a Trump administration?
Well, Trump said when he was campaigning that he wants the best minds, the most experienced. He spoke, for example, of Carl Icahn to be the negotiator with China. I think he'd be justified in picking someone. They'd say establishment, they'd say from international banking, but I don't think anyone really cares. Can they deliver? Do they know what they're doing? Will they send some reassurance to the markets? In the same way on the national security post, the ones you showed, Trump is a novice. He's coming in from the outside. I think the one thing he might want to think about is reassurance. And somebody like a Jack Keane in defense, or a Petraeus, somebody who's got a track record and is not identified with an ideological camp, I think might be a pretty good choice and would reassure allies and also people in the military.
But it doesn't fit a lot of areas of Trump foreign policy.
Well, I think that the candidates for these jobs are going to have to advance Trump's worldview, and the worldview that Trump, really laid out in the campaign was we're going to have a very robust foreign policy, but it's going to be more pragmatic. Given our current financial situation, we have to rebuild the American economy. We're not going to be the world's policeman, but we're going to live up to our obligations. I mean, I know people think, well, he's just going to abandon everything. I never got that from what Trump said. So whoever is in that position at defense is going to have to be more in line with, I think, more Reagan-esque than George W. Bush in foreign policy. If they're more George W. Bush, I don't think it's going to work.
Maybe quickly, we're talking about this outsider status, also hearing that there's talk about the inauguration and maybe not having inaugural balls and having more kind of a populist theme, that we don't need that. You have the swearing in, and it's kind of like Jimmy Carter's thing. It's a little Spartan.
Look, I think it's great that Trump says he's not going to take a paycheck, that he wants to do the inaugural different. I mean, I think that those kind of rules are made to be broken. And I think him, working as a volunteer president is a great thing. I think there are just some other rules that people don't want to be broken, like the press pool that travels with him and is supposed to be, provide protective reporting coverage no matter where he is. There are just some rules that people are going to be uncomfortable with if they are broken, and particularly particularly in the case of Secretary of State, which I also read today, Nikki Haley is in the running for. You know, it's great that they're looking at everybody. Rudy Giuliani will come under, it seems, and maybe he'll be cleared of this, the same criticism that Hillary Clinton did, the same baggage she carried to the State Department that Donald Trump campaigned against. And I don't think he wants to start off with a bunch of swampy characters when he really wants to drain the swamp.